Hello, sir. My name is Rajkumar Sharma and enrollment number is MT20 ACS 525. In this vlog, I will demonstrate Nikto tool. First question is, what is a web server? So it is a computer software and hardware system which accepts client request via HTTP or HTTPS protocol and returns specific web pages. It can also return static web pages as well as dynamic web pages. So Nikto is an open source web server scanner built in Perl language. It can examine any local or remote web server to capture potential issues or security vulnerabilities. For example, misconfiguration in servers, problems related to default configuration files or programs, any vulnerable file or outdated programs, and lastly, it can give hints about possible data points where problem may exist, and any human or administrator can use this information to detect and fix the issues. Coming to installation part, so it is available in GitHub as well as installation binaries can be obtained from cert.net website. A detailed documentation is also available for it under GitHub wiki. Let's see the demo. To perform the demonstration, I have opened this vulnerable machine that is meta exploitable 2, and it is having IP address as 192.168.125.93. So let's move to our Kali Linux. Here I have already opened a terminal. So first let's see how we can install Nikto on Kali Linux. It is very easy. So we can give command like sudo apt-get install then followed by Nikto. After this, click hit enter and provide your password and then hit enter again. So I have already installed it. That's why it is telling me that it is already on the newest version. And if your system does not have, then it will download the net dependency file and install it without any further inputs. Another way is we can clone the GitHub repository and then follow the guidelines provided in the repository itself in order to build and install it on our own. Moving ahead, once it get installed, we can check it by typing Nikto in terminal and hit enter. So Nikto then hit enter. So we can see that it is displaying its name and its version, which is 2.1.6, and then some usage instructions here. So that means our Nikto has been installed successfully on this machine. Now, in order to get help on Nikto, we can see the manual pages by typing the command man followed by Nikto. This will open a brief description about all the options available with the Nikto and how we can use it and what each means. Now to exit from this manual, we can hit a Q key on the keyboard. Moving ahead, we can also see these help from the Nikto wiki page that is available on GitHub. GitHub is available here. Sulo says slash Nikto. So here if we can find the installation instructions available on this home page, how we can clone it on our machine, and then how we can make this program. And then in the wiki we have all the instructions how we can perform the scans, what each option mean, how we can use, how we can conduct basic testing, use a proxy, what are the interactive features, and how we can update this utility, then followed by command line options, plugins, configuration files, how to generate outputs and reports. Similarly, all these information is available on this wiki page, and it is main website of this utility. Moving ahead, let's first perform a basic scan on the vulnerable machine which we have just started. To do that, we can type Nikto dash h for host, Then followed by, we can either give it a host name like web address google.com, or we can also supply direct IP address. Right now I am giving it a host IP address, that is 192.168.125.93. And if we want to specify any specific port to scan, we can supply a dash p for port, and then we can give a port number. By default it uses port number 80, so I am giving it this much command, then press enter. Now it has started scanning. It is showing that what is target IP, what is the target host name. In our case, as we have provided IP, that's why it is showing IP here. Then which port it is scanning, target port, and what time this is scan was started. Now here is the results of the scanning. First, it has detected that Apache server is running with having version 2.2.8, and OS version is Ubuntu. Next, it is showing that it has retrieved X powered by header, that is PHP. PHP version is 5.2.4, and it is also showing that anti-click jacking X frame option header is not present. That means any attacker can execute click jacking commands on this server. Next is XSS protection header is not defined. This header can hint to the user agent to protect against some forms of XSS. The X content type option header is not set. This could allow the user agent to render the content of the site in a different fashion to the MIME type. So this way a lot of information is provided in here. It can also it has also detected that PHP info.php function is exposed to public, so anyone can use it. Then this doc directory is browsable. Similarly, it will detect all these vulnerabilities and configuration information to us. It has also detected that PHP my admin changelog is accessible, database is accessible, and a server may leak inodes via e tags. This. Now we can also supply multiple ports, and we can also do this scan on multiple hosts as well. For that we need to create a host file, separate host file, and then we need to supply it in the command line arguments. But because of the Perl constraint, it uses lot of RAM and CPU. That's why we are not performing it here. But if we want to specify any port, then we can supply command like nikto -s. This time I am using google.com. Then I am specifying that we should scan port as 480 and 443, that is HTTP and HTTPS. Then we can hit enter. Now it will scan both ports, as we will see in the results in a while. Meanwhile, it processes the scans. Let's move ahead, and so there must be an error in the internet side. Let me try it again. Okay, this time it connected. So let it complete. Let's move ahead and see what are the parameters available which can be used with the Nikto. So for that we can type Nikto dash capital H for help. So here are the options which we can use with this utility. First one is dash ask. So we can supply this parameter in order to send or not to send updates to its website, which is cert.in. Next is CGI Using this parameter, we can specify which CGI directory should be scanned. CGI directory generally contains various scripts which is executed on server as required. Next is dash config plus. So these plus symbols here mentions that any parameter followed by this plus symbol should have a value against it. Means if we are supplying dash ask, then we also need to supply one of the options listed here or any suitable option. Otherwise it will throw an error, and those who do not have any plus sign, that means they do not require any separate value. So moving ahead, next is dash config. So if we want to specify any custom configuration file instead of default settings, we can supply it here. Next is dash display. We can use this parameter to decide what we want in the output of a scan result. For example, we can pass 1 to show redirects, we can pass 2 to show cookies, etc. Let's see a demo of this. For this, I am opening one more tab. Let's type Nikto, then host. Let's try our vulnerable machine here, 192.168.125.93, followed by display, and then let's supply 1 comma 2. So this will display the redirects and cookies as well in the output. I think IP address is incorrect. Okay, this time it worked. Let's wait till it completes the this scan. So here we can see that it has detected one redirect, and it has provided this in output as well. Next is we can also see that this time in the result it has also displayed all the cookies which has been received and used. Earlier when we performed this scan on the same machine, we didn't get any such information here, neither cookie nor redirects. So this way we can supply multiple options, and this each option will supply will output different values. Next is dash db check. If we supply this parameter, then it checks the database and similar files for syntax related errors. Next is the dash evasion. So when Nikto performs any scan, it leaves trails behind. It does not conduct a scan in stealth mode. However, to overcome it, this new feature has been introduced, but still it is not 100% foolproof. We can supply this parameter followed by these options like 1 for random URI encoding, 2 for directory self-reference, 3 for premature URL ending, etc. Next is dash format. This parameter is useful when we want to store the scan result in a file. We can save the reports in various formats like CSV, JSON, HTML, etc. Let's see a demo how we can save the reports. So I will be conducting this same scan which we have just conducted it here. Now in order to store this output to a file, first we need to specify what format we want. Suppose we want it to be in HTML format, and then what should be the output file name. We can either supply dash o, or we can also write complete parameter name here, then followed by any path or file name in which this will get stored. So let me give it a name like scan results dot html and hit enter. It will perform the scan, display the output in command terminal, and as well as it will store the result in this file which will be named as scan results.html. Let's wait till it completes. Okay, it has completed, and now we can check that we have scan results.html file here. So it has all the data. Let's view it. We can give it like scan results. Now here it is showing same target IP, host name, port which was used to scan, and then followed by what it has identified, what is the server, and what is the link, what options it has performed, and what it has detected. All these details has been listed here in this report. And we can also match the timing here, that start time was 13:90:27 and end time was this. A total 26 seconds it took, and total 8,726 requests were made and 27 findings were done. And what is the scan summary? We can see that what was the command line options was supplied, how many hosts were tested, what was the start time of the scan, what is end time of a scan, what is elapsed time, means total time took to complete the scan, and which version the scan was performed. So this way we can get a output in the file. Moving ahead, next our option is dash help. So with this generates this help information which we are seeing right now. Next is dash host. So using this parameter we can specify the host which we need to scan. For short we can also type dash h. Next is dash 404 code. So by using this parameter, we can ignore error responses in the output related to bad error codes. Next is dash 404 string, this one. So by supplying this parameter, we can ignore the responses which whose body contains these negative responses. First one checks for header, and this 404 string checks in the response body. Next is dash id. If we want to use any authentication while conducting the scans and connecting to server, we can use this parameter dash id, and we can use the format is id, that is username, and then colon, then a password. Next is dash key. If we want to supply any certificate key file, then we can use this parameter. Next is list plugin. Using this parameter, it will display all the plugins that are available, but it will not perform any testing. We can see here that Nikto list plugins. So it has displayed all the plugins which are installed on this machine currently, that is dir traversal, that is directory traversal. One is ms10070, that is for any Microsoft related security issues or updates. Similarly, all these plugins are installed. Next is dash max time. So how much time a scan should be performed per host? In order to save time when we are scanning for multiple hosts, we can use this parameter and define how much time should one host take. Next is dash mutate. So if we want to guess the additional files name, suppose we are scanning for CGI directories and files. If we want to scan for some different file names, sometimes these administrators change the file names for security purpose from default file names. So if we want to guess those, then we can use this parameter dash mutate, followed by one option one if we want to test all files with root directories, option 2 for guess for the password file names. Similarly, Next is dash muted options. If we want to get information about any mutates, then we can supply this parameter. Next is no interactive. If we want to disable any interactive features include, like, while it is performing the scan, we have certain hotkeys. If we press those, then it will display more information as per the key. We will see a demo of this, like if we want to get a verbose output while performing a scan, so we can press key V while it is performing the scan. Let's perform a scan right now, and if I type B, then it is displaying more information. If I type V, then it is showing another kind of information, means in more details it is showing each. Similarly, there are many other key. If we want to see the status, then we can hit space. So if we want to disable these status keys, then we can supply this parameter, that is no interactive. Then these space V, B, Q will not work. Next is dash no lookup. If we want to disable DNS lookups, then we can supply this parameter. Next is no SSL. Similarly, if we want to disable the use of SSL, then we can supply this parameter. Next is no 404. Okay, by default, Nikto attempt to guess if this is a 404 page, means a page not found on the web server. So if we want Nikto to detect it, then we can leave it. If we want to not to guess any 40 phase, if we want Nikto to disable means guessing this, then we can supply this parameter. Next is dash option. If we want to override any option which is defined in the Nikto configuration file, we will see a configuration file. What are the options available here? Let's see. For that, by default, Nikto store these configuration file in user share folder. So we can move there, cd user slash share slash Nikto. So here we can see we have nikto.conf.default. So by default, Nikto uses these settings provided in this configuration file for any operation which is performed. Let's see what is inside this configuration file. Okay, so here we can specify command line options. By default, what command line option should be there? For that, we can uncomment it by removing this hash and then followed by any default command line options. Like we want to save the result in one file, particular file, then we can supply that dash o and then followed by a file name here. And if we want to skip any port while performing a scan, then we can supply it here. So this way, many information have been provided in this configuration file, and it is used while performing the scan. Similarly, like if proxy details need to be provided, then we can provide it here. And where is the education directory, where is the plugins are stored, all details are available in this configuration file. Moving ahead, dash output. This we have already seen a demonstration. We have used dash o. So we can use this option if we want to store in the results in any file. So it is a case sensitive. So if we provide dash small o, then it means that it is alternate to dash output. If we supply a capital O dash followed by capital O, then that means it is we will give now any configuration item with this option. So next is dash pause. If we want to pause between test, we can supply it here in seconds or in seconds, either integer or float, that is decimal. Next is dash plugins. If we want that what plugins should be run and what shouldn't be, which plugins are in currently used, then we can provide this option. Next is dashboard. If we want to supply any other port which we want to scan other than default 80, then we can supply it here. You have already seen a demo of this. Next is if we have any RSS certificate file, then we can supply using this parameter. Next is dash root. If we want to apply root value to all the requests, then we can use this parameter. Next is dash save. If we want to save the positive responses, that is all the success responses to any directory, then we can use this option. Next is dash ssl. In order to force ssl mode, then we can use this parameter. Next is dash tuning. Now this is a very useful parameter, so we can tune the scan as per our requirement. First is if we supply option 1, then it will search for only interesting files, like similarly like log files. Mainly it will look for log files and then determine the results from there. If we supply it to, then it will only look for misconfiguration or default files available in the server. Third, if we provide option 3, then it will search for information disclosure only. Similarly, these scan can be tuned for a particular output. By default, it uses all these options and provide as much information as it can. Next is dash timeout. We can supply this parameter in order to fix the timeout for the request, which is in case default case is 10 seconds. Next is user DBS. If we want to load only user database, then we can use this parameter, and with this parameter we need to supply either all or test. That means if we supply all, then it will disable all the standard databases and only user database will be used in order to perform any test. Next is dash user agent. We can change if we want to override the user agent details, then we can supply it here. Next is dash until. So till what time we want to conduct this scan operation. Sometimes scan operation can take too long. So if we want to restrict that, if we want, suppose we want to scan a particular host for 30 minutes only, then we can supply it using this parameter. Next is dash update. If we want to update the Nikto application and its plugin, then we can supply this parameter. Next is dash URL. If we want to supply a website address, then we can use this parameter, or we can also supply a target host using dash h as well. It is just a alias. Next is dash use proxy. So if we want to use any proxy server while perform sending the request, then we can supply it here, or we have also seen it in configuration file, so we can also uncomment there and provide the values there. Next is if we want to print the version of this software, then we can supply this parameter dash version. Next is dash vhost. If we want to scan any virtual host, then we can supply it using this parameter. Now moving ahead to conclusions. As we know, cyber criminals are coming with new and creative tricks to hack the servers in order to steal data. New patches are also released on regular basis, and it is necessary to scan and test the server for existing vulnerabilities in order to identify and fix them. Finally, not all issues can be detected by any vulnerability scanners available today. A manual scan should also be conducted on regular basis. Coming to suggestions, all open ports which are not in use should be closed on the server, and server software should be kept up to date with all the latest patches and updates as released by the vendors. And the default configuration is the main issue. Servers are being can be easily hacked by attackers. Therefore, they should be changed. Password and sensitive information should always be encrypted in the databases. With this, we come to end of the demonstration of Nikto tool. Thank you.